The humans thought they had killed a traitor, but what they really did was create a monster. After losing the woman he loved, his unborn child, and his own life, this man was thrown away as a sacrifice. But instead of dying, he opened his eyes in another body, not as a hero, not as a demon king, but as the weakest creature in the world, a goblin. Now, every human who betrayed him will learn the truth. Gorulz was not reborn to survive. He was reborn to make them pay. Our story begins in a peaceful valley with a city surrounded by walls. Deep in the forest, a green-skinned being firmly holds a stained dagger. Ahead, several men are lying on the ground, showing that he just won a battle. Soon, a sharp scream comes from the entrance of a mine, with voices telling a girl to be quiet. The greenish being then turns toward the sound, looking at the cave entrance. With a serious expression on his face, he adjusts his scarf, looking very focused. Slowly, a wide and dangerous smile begins to form on his lips. Inside the mine, a young woman with long hair is tied up, with her hands secured above her head. A man holds an ID card and reads her name out loud, Jang Ha Yun. The group of 3 men then comments that she seems to come from a very wealthy area of the city. One of them approaches the gagged girl and asks if she has calmed down a bit. He continues the conversation by saying she will definitely need their help. As a threat, he lifts a defeated young man and says she will share the same fate if she does not cooperate. Completely terrified by the sight, the girl starts to struggle in pure fear. The young woman tries so hard that she loses consciousness and her head drops forward. One of the men complains that she passed out again, and the other criticizes his attitude. A third man chimes in and asks them not to ruin the girl's face. He explains that she is the prettiest person summoned to that place recently. Running out of patience, one of them says to wake her up, because they cannot carry her passed out all the way to the base. The man who wanted to protect her turns his back and comments that he finds the whole situation disgusting. Hearing this, his companion gets annoyed and asks what he just said. The argument escalates quickly, and the two pull out their swords, glaring at each other with anger. Watching from afar, the goblin notices that the bandits are getting too excited in there. At that moment, the men stop fighting as they sense someone else has arrived. At the mine's entrance, the goblin smiles and suggests they change the way they play from now on. Yelling at the bandits, he jumps at high speed to launch his attack. Throwing his daggers, he hits one of the men with incredible precision in a critical spot. Surprised, the other bandit yells that he is just a goblin and orders everyone to attack him. With that, the 3 men charge together at the small being ready for a fight. Showing no fear, the goblin tightly grips his weapon's handle, getting ready for combat. One of the bandits wearing a bandana yells for the small being to perish as he attacks with everything he has. But the goblin smoothly dodges the strike, and the man calls him trash for missing. Then, with glowing eyes, his dagger is wrapped in a powerful red energy. In a fast and accurate move, he lands a decisive strike on his opponent. Hit head-on, the man cries out in pain and falls to his knees on the ground, completely defeated. Without wasting time, the green being finishes the enemy with a precise blow. The last remaining bandit is in shock, wondering how they were beaten by that thing. Meanwhile, the tied-up girl watches the scene with tears in her eyes, looking completely in disbelief. Right after, the goblin charges at the last enemy and yells for them to keep the game going. Desperate, the man swings his sword and tells the green monster to stay away from him. In total panic, he raises his weapon and keeps yelling for the small being to back off. But the small warrior dodges the desperate attack with a very skillful jump. With that, he lands a powerful kick right in the face of the bandit, who cannot react. After taking down the last enemy, the greenish being lands on the ground victoriously. The man is left on the floor with a pained expression while the girl watches everything in tears. Terrified, the survivor crawls away and begs the goblin not to come any closer, offering food. He tries to negotiate, saying they can talk and that the small being seems friendly. Ignoring the pleas, the goblin raises his dagger, and the panicking man asks what he wants. His eyes glow red and he attacks without hesitation while the bandit insults him. After the strike, the last enemy finally goes silent, lying on the mine floor. Sitting on the defeated man, the goblin takes a deep breath, thinking that all of this is wild. At that moment, he hears a strange noise and quickly turns around to see what it is. It was the tied-up girl, who is now trembling with fear after seeing what just happened. He stands up and, with his dagger in hand, starts walking toward the scared young woman. Getting closer, the goblin uses his weapon to cut the ropes holding the girl's hands. With a serious look, the small being comments that she was still there the whole time. Now free from her restraints, the young woman drops to her knees and calls his attention. With her eyes full of tears, she asks if by any chance he is also Korean. The goblin turns his back and wonders if she really sees him as a human being. Crying, the girl says he speaks Korean, understood what an ID was, and saved her. The goblin cuts her off, telling her to be quiet and stating that he did not save her. Desperate, the girl begs for an explanation, saying she has no idea what is going on. He then points to the fallen men and asks if she did not hear what they were talking about. The greenish being explains that they lived a normal life, but were thrown into that world. Confused, the young woman asks him to properly explain what this other world is. With a smirk, the goblin seems to know exactly what is about to happen. He turns to her and says that by now, she should be able to see it. The small being then asks what mission the system gave her, leaving the girl completely lost. At that exact moment, a different glow appears in the girl's eyes as she notices something. 2 blue screens with strange text pop up in front of her. and she gets startled by them. Seeing her reaction, he explains that she can survive and earn rewards through missions. After that, the goblin turns his back and tells the girl to put in a little effort. But before he leaves, the young woman grabs his arm and asks him to explain things properly. Because of her attitude, the greenish being gets a look of pure anger on his face. In a sudden move, he throws her away with great force, making the girl scream. He then places the tip of his stained dagger right next to the young woman's neck. The goblin warns her that he is the most dangerous being around, and that she should not expect anything from him. He states that from this point on, he will attack every human he crosses paths with. Crying, the girl wonders why, because he could definitely help her. Her scream echoes in the goblin's mind, bringing back memories of a very painful past. The scene shifts to a rainy night in a destroyed camp with fallen figures all over the ground. In the middle of the chaos, a young man cries desperately while holding someone injured in his arms. He holds the face of a girl who seems to be in her final moments. Through the rain, a person wearing shiny armor walks toward the young man. The young man then lifts his tear-filled face and glares at the newcomer with pure rage. The woman approaches with a sword, and the title Holy Sword appears on the screen. Her name is revealed to be Rai, the wielder of the powerful Holy Sword. The young man then yells that she had promised to help everyone live well in that new world. In tears, he questions why she did not help when she had the power to do so. Coldly, the warrior says their sacrifice was noble, and that they completed their mission. The warrior then condemns him, saying that for attacking an ally, he will be taken down as a traitor. With the sword at his chest, the young man screams that her soldiers took away his beloved and his child. As a tear rolls down his face, the young man's energy slowly fades away. Showing no emotion, the Holy Sword watches him fall to the ground and simply tells the traitor to be quiet. In his last moments, the young man questions the words noble sacrifice and traitor. With his motionless body, his eyes show that he realized everything was a huge lie. His spirit curses all the humans present, calling them disgusting creatures. He then wishes with all his might to be able to destroy them all, willing to pay any price for it. Back in the present, the goblin growls at the girl with the same hatred from that memory. Looking at the young woman, he says that since she wanted to know the reason for everything, he would tell her. With a scary look, he yells that he hates and despises humans, because he is no longer one of them. The greenish being then reveals that he has now become a green skin, a monster of that world. The memory flashes through his mind again, with the warrior talking about the honor of sacrifice. She accuses him of raising his hand against his own comrades, and says that is why he would fall. Again, the young man yells that he was only trying to stop her soldiers from committing an awful act. But the Holy Sword does not listen and simply calls him a traitor one last time. His world turns upside down as the rain falls on his lifeless face. The words honorable sacrifice and traitor echo in his mind as he relives the pain. He realizes that every word they said was a lie and curses humans for their wickedness. The young man swears he would give up everything he has for a single chance to get payback. His consciousness then breaks apart into bubbles that slowly rise in a dark liquid. Reaching the surface, the bubbles pop, showing that something new is about to begin. Suddenly, he emerges from the water with a different body, screaming in agony from the transformation. Catching his breath, the young man wonders how he can still breathe underwater. Confused and scared, the first thing he does is look for his beloved Solji. Without understanding anything, he looks at himself and wonders where in the world he is. Right then, a massive magic circle glows around him, revealing the source of the power. The young man screams in despair, unable to process what is happening to him. Looking at his hand, he notices the green skin and claws, no longer recognizing his own appearance. Soon, a huge monster approaches, saying the moonlight guided him to the scent of battle. With a look of pure panic, the transformed young man stares at the terrifying creature. The monster then introduces himself as Morxel, the shaman of the warriors in that place. He says that by being reborn into the Goblin tribe, the young man would now receive a new name. With authority, the shaman gets ready to announce what the young man's new identity will be. With his mouth full of sharp fangs, he says the chosen name for the new goblin. The given name is Gorulz, which means a great vessel in the monster language. Somewhere else, a female goblin inspects a defeated enemy and notices the strikes were Gorulz's work. She says Gorulz is her man for being able to handle himself against humans like that. The goblin then orders the rest of the group to hold their positions and wait there. With a battle cry, she introduces herself as Mev and says she is going after Gorulz. Back at the mine, our main character seems to sense someone approaching. He then turns to the girl and tells her to leave right away before he changes his mind. But the young woman refuses to leave and asks if there is any chance she can stay with him. The goblin gets annoyed and asks if she really wants to stay by the side of a monster like him. She replies that the real monsters are the men who attacked her, and he was the one who kept her safe. Desperate, the girl says she has no one else to trust and that he is her only hope. Running out of patience, the goblin grabs her head and calls her a naive, empty-headed girl. He explains that it is because of this naivety that she always ends up in dangerous situations. The small being warns her, saying that in that place, nothing is worthy of trust. He then informs her that there are several human survivor camps in the region. The goblin assures her that the people in those camps will be at least less dangerous than him. Next, he places a sharp, pointy object into the girl's hands. She asks what it is, and the guy explains that she will have to pay a price to join them. He advises her to use the weapon to defend herself in case she ends up in a bad spot again. Finally, he threatens her, telling her not to talk to him anymore or else he would eliminate her himself. The girl asks him to wait and begs him to at least say his name before leaving. The goblin stops for a moment but continues on his way without looking back and without answering. But with a smirk, he introduces himself as Gorulz, the great vessel, the battle goblin. After the young woman leaves, he starts digging through a chest, looking for something valuable. At that moment, the goblin Mev arrives and asks why he let a human woman escape. Surprised, the battle goblin turns around and notices the archer Mev's presence. She complains that he gave a dagger to the human when she had not even received one herself. Gorulz replies that it would not be worth the trouble to eliminate such a weak human. The girl hugs him from behind and says her beloved only wants to face strong enemies. Mev then asks how strong the holy sword is for him to want her life so badly. Turning his back, he explains that it is not just because of her strength that he wants to face her. With a look full of hatred, the goblin states that he wants the lives of those who stole his world. The archer is shocked and speechless upon seeing the intensity of Gorulz's feelings. In his thoughts, he remembers that the reason for everything was the person he protected the most. Gorulz continues, saying that as if everything else was not enough, they also took his own life. He states that he has nothing left tying him to that world, and that he will move forward. The battle goblin then reveals the oath he made to give up anything for revenge. Mev is terrified when she realizes the depth and seriousness of that oath. With his eyes glowing red, he yells that he will get payback for everything they put him through. A tear of pure rage and determination rolls down his eye as he makes his promise. He swears he will return all the suffering down to the last drop, leaving nothing behind. Suddenly, he violently pushes the girl aside, making her scream in surprise. Startled, Gorulz turns to her and calls her name, realizing he scared her by accident. She says she gets scared when he acts like that, and he apologizes for his outburst of anger. Gorulz then instructs her to gather the others and collect anything of value to offer to the shaman. Excited, Mev runs off to follow the order and summon the other goblins for the job. After a while, Gorulz climbs a cliff to observe the landscape around him. From up there, he gets a wide view of the forest and the distant mountains. With a serious expression, he analyzes the territory, planning his next moves. Meanwhile, the young woman he freed runs desperately through the forest looking for help. A system screen pops up in front of the goblin, showing his current mission status. The mission is to hunt 30 humans, and the reward is evolving into a goblin warrior. The scoreboard shows he has already gotten 29 eliminations, missing only one. He thinks that since he became a battle goblin, his movements have become much stronger. While deep in thought, he hears someone calling his name and turns to see who it is. The archer Mev approaches and says she has already gathered everything useful, asking for the next step. He explains that some enemies escaped and will soon return to the mine with backup. With a confident smile, Gorulz states that place will become their final resting place. The scene shifts to a blue sky with a bright sun, showing that time has passed. At the mine entrance, some noises indicate the goblins are getting ready for battle. Mev looks excited as she moves crates to set up barricades and traps. Gorulz scolds her for not handling the items carefully, and she apologizes to him. Another goblin walks up and calls Gorulz boss, leaving the main character surprised. The scared goblin says they did exactly what the boss ordered. He reports that all the traps and obstacles for the battle are ready. Gorulz appreciates the effort but states he is not their boss, though the goblin insists. The little monster explains that he saw Gorulz fight the humans, and because of that he recognizes him as a leader. He then turns to the others and asks if they all feel the same way he does. In unison, all the other goblins shout that they also accept Gorulz as their new boss. Mev steps forward with a smile and says she also accepts him, but as her man. Just then, one of the lookouts yells that the humans are approaching the mine. Gorulz then gives the order for all goblins to fall back and hide as far away as possible. He turns to Mevin in a serious tone, says he will need her help in the battle. Excited, the archer readies her bow and arrow and yells that she will make it rain arrows for her man. With a smirk, Gorulz says everything is set and that it is time for the fun to begin. Meanwhile, the humans arrive at the spot where their comrades were defeated and are left in shock. The group leader gets angry and asks if they are really saying a single goblin did all that. He grabs the survivor by the collar and accuses him of making a fool out of him. The man defends himself, saying the little monster completely lost it and attacked everyone. The boss calls him a pathetic fool and hits him with a very strong punch to the face. From the force of the strike, the guy falls to the ground, unable to defend himself against the leader's fury. The boss then orders his men to capture the goblin alive so he can see if it was true. With that, the entire group of mercenaries prepares to breach the mine and capture Gorulz. But before they can advance, the man who gave the order is hit by a well-aimed arrow. Immediately, all the other mercenaries get into a battle formation, ready for combat. The mercenary leader is furious about the surprise attack and wonders where it came from. The survivor points to the mine entrance and yells that the goblin is right there. From the top of a structure, Mev readies another arrow with a focused and determined look. The shot is precise and lands right in the leg of an advancing mercenary. Seeing his man injured, the boss calls him useless and attacks him with his axe. With a victorious smile, the archer comments on the human's ignorance. After shooting, she quickly runs deeper into the mine for the next part of the plan. The boss yells at his men, telling them to stop staring and go catch the monster already. Following the leader's order, the whole group of mercenaries runs into the dark cave. Mev keeps running through the tunnels, luring the enemies deeper into the mine. With a nimble jump, the goblin manages to clear one of the obstacles they set up. The men follow her without realizing they are running straight into a well-planned trap. From a distance, they yell for her not to escape and call her a useless creature. Mev then meets up with Gorulz and warns him that the humans are storming the mine. Thrilled by the plan's success, the archer celebrates and gets ready to escape. The mercenary boss watches his men running deep into the mine, completely unaware of the danger. He mutters to himself, feeling humiliated for being tricked by a goblin. Suddenly, he notices a stretched wire on the ground and stops abruptly before tripping over it. A spark runs down the fuse, lighting up something hidden just ahead. The leader turns back with a surprised look, not understanding what that was. He sees a stone barricade and mocks the trap, thinking it would not work. Despite underestimating the goblin, he admits the monster has good tricks and is smart. At that moment, his eyes widen as he realizes a crucial detail in the trap. Crouching down for a closer look, he spots something that leaves him absolutely terrified. It was a box of explosive powder hidden right in the middle of the stone barricade. One of his men calls out to him, and he realizes they are all caught in a fatal trap. In sheer panic, the boss screams with all his might for everyone to get out of there. Before they can react, one of his men just looks confused at the leader. A massive explosion takes over the mine tunnel, engulfing all the mercenaries. The intense fire consumes the men, showing the true power of Gorulz's trap. The force of the blast throws one of the mercenaries far away, completely caught in the flames. The survivor who was outside gets hit by the debris and screams in pain. Lying on the ground, he angrily insults the goblin for being fooled so easily. Smoke and dust from the explosion completely fill the destroyed mine entrance. Watching from a safe spot, Mev is amazed by the blast's power. She walks over to Gorulz to see if he is okay after the loud bang. But to her surprise, she finds him standing in the middle of a very intense pillar of blue light. A system screen informs him that he completed the mission and will evolve into a goblin warrior. The energy fades, and Gorulz appears with a much stronger and more imposing look. With a satisfied smile, he feels the new strength flowing through his entire body. He wonders if this is what it feels like to get stronger and prepares himself for the future. The only mercenary who survived the explosion cries out in pain with a heavily injured leg. He complains about having warned them it was not a regular goblin and calls his companions fools. Suddenly, he spots a figure stepping out of the smoke and cannot believe anyone survived. Gorulz emerges from the rubble with a threatening look and calls the survivor a cockroach. In the blink of an eye, the battle goblin charges at the last enemy. Before the man can react, Gorulz hits him with a powerful strike to the face. He then grabs him by the neck and holds a dagger right up to his throat. Gorulz threatens him, saying he better answer his questions or he would become dinner that night. The scene shifts to a white-haired man looking at a flag with a sword symbol. He's in a watchtower at a survivor camp and seems nostalgic. The man notes that whether it was 10 years ago or right now, things are exactly the same. Somewhere else, Gorulz and Mev are checking a map, and the archer asks if something went wrong. He explains that he needs to return to Lord Morxel and report what they achieved. The plan is to rearm their men and head back to keep fighting the humans. The survivor then walks up and asks the goblin to let him go now. He argues that he already marked the camp's location on the map and did his part. Gorulz agrees to spare his life since he promised he would if the man cooperated. The man is shocked and relieved at the same time to make it out of that situation alive. He then tells the other goblins to get out of his way because their boss let him go. With disgust, the man calls the goblins pathetic rats as he walks away from them. But the small beings get up and sprint toward the human with their weapons in hand. They attack him with several fast and precise strikes, giving him no chance to react. The man tries to defend himself, but one of the goblins covers his mouth so he cannot scream. Surrounded and with no way out, the mercenary is completely overpowered by the little monsters. Gorulz then explains that he promised to let him live, but he did not say anything about his men. The defeated opponent sinks into the water, marking the end of that mercenary group. Elsewhere, the shaman Morxel questions Gorulz's request to attack a human camp. Gorulz kneels and reports that he has already mapped out the location, the number of enemies, and the terrain. He assures the shaman that with a surprise attack, they have a great chance of winning. The tribe leader falls deep into thought, analyzing the young goblin warrior's proposal. Suddenly, a voice speaks up and yells for Lord Morxel not to approve the request. Gorulz turns around to see who is standing against his attack plan. It was a hobgoblin named Goff, who says their focus should be on the Grand Chief's call. He argues that they need to gather forces and supplies for the long journey ahead. The shaman agrees it is time to prepare but sees no reason to deny the request. Goff insists that Gorulz is a rookie and that they cannot waste resources on him. Gorulz then stands up and invites Goff to come along and help secure the supplies. With a challenging look, he asks if the hobgoblin has the guts for it. Goff gets angry and asks if the rookie is doubting his warrior skills. Gorulz stares at him seriously and says he will prove his worth to everyone there. Just then, Mev comes running in and cheerfully asks for her beloved Gorulz. Goff turns to Gorulz and challenges him to an honor duel to settle the matter. The archer is shocked by the proposal, not understanding what is going on. Gorulz accepts the duel on the condition that the loser must fully obey the winner. Mev gasps in surprise at the crazy condition her beloved just set. The shaman authorizes the honor duel, and Mev questions her grandfather's decision. The scene changes to a battle arena with the two warriors in the center, surrounded by the tribe. The crowd chants Goff's name, showing he is the favorite in the upcoming fight. One of the goblins walks up to Mev and asks why she did not stop the duel. Mev explains she had no time to react because Gorulz accepted the challenge way too fast. Shaman Morxel announces the rules for the duel: no weapons and no magic until one surrenders. Mev's goblin friend says Goff's a bad temper and will not let Gorulz leave in one piece. With a loud and commanding shout, the shaman kicks off the highly anticipated honor duel. Goff provokes Gorulz with a mighty roar and calls him to fight with clear disdain. He charges at Gorulz, saying that just because he evolved, he is no big deal. The hobgoblin threatens to break every bone in Gorulz's body so badly he will never recover. But before he can even finish his sentence, Gorulz dodges his attack with agility. In a swift and unexpected move, Gorulz lands a perfect kick right between Goff's legs. The hobgoblin drops to his knees in immense pain, unable to believe what just happened. Taking advantage of the moment, Gorulz delivers a powerful punch straight to his opponent's face. The strike is so forceful that the huge hobgoblin hits the ground completely dazed. In the stands, Mev and her friend drop their jaws, totally shocked by the scene they just witnessed. The crowd that previously cheered for Goff now yells together that he is not going to surrender. Gorulz walks over and asks if, even after that, Goff still does not plan on giving up. With the opponent still refusing to back down, Gorulz grabs him from behind in a chokehold. The hobgoblin struggles with all his might but cannot break free from the hold. Slowly, he loses consciousness and passes out in Gorulz's arms, unable to keep going. Even while passed out, Goff manages to stay on his feet, showing his incredible endurance and strength. Gorulz lets him go and remarks that while his technique is trash, his physique is impressive. Up in the stands, Mev and her friends celebrate Gorulz's victory with great excitement. Shaman Morxel then declares Gorulz the grand winner and says he will grant his request. Gorulz turns to the shaman and thanks him for the opportunity and the trust placed in him. Right then, he hears someone calling his name and turns to see who is approaching. It was Mev and her friend, who run over to hug him and congratulate him on the big win. The goblin admits he did not think he would win, and Mev brags about how amazing her man is. Mev's friend decides to become Gorulz's right-hand man, and Mev announces she is going to mate with him. Shaman Morxel steps closer and calls Gorulz's attention, interrupting the celebration. Gorulz quickly answers the Lord's call while Mev yells out to her grandfather. The shaman strikes his staff hard against the ground, grabbing everyone's attention in the arena. A blue energy starts flowing from the shaman's staff planted on the arena floor. The glow gets brighter, and a powerful aura surrounds Morxel, who seems to be casting something. Gorulz is shocked to realize the shaman is using a powerful portal spell. Morxel then invites him to come along because there is someone he needs to meet. Without hesitation, Gorulz accepts the invite, and they both step through the portal to an unknown place. They arrive in a fancy hallway with golden walls and a highly polished marble floor. The portal closes behind them, revealing they are now in a completely different location. Gorulz follows the shaman down the hall, checking out the rich architecture and details of the place. When they reach a large room, another portal with a golden aura is already open. From that portal, a female figure glowing with golden energy slowly begins to appear. Gorulz gets surprised and curious to know who the person the shaman brought him to meet is. The woman then greets old Morxel, saying it has been a long time since they last saw each other. The shaman grips his staff tighter, showing a bit of tension regarding her presence. The blue energy flows once again from Morxel's staff planted on the floor. An aura of power surrounds the shaman, who gets ready for something major. Gorulz is surprised once more upon realizing it is a portal spell. The shaman invites him to go with him to a place where he will meet someone. Gorulz agrees, and they both step through the portal, leaving the others behind. They show up in a fancy hallway with oriental decor and a portal at the very end. The portal takes shape, revealing a pathway to another unknown location. Bare feet with wraps around the ankles step out of the portal. The shaman and Gorulz watch the figures stepping out of the portal with curiosity and caution. Gorulz asks Lord Morxel where they are and what is happening. The shaman calls him over and asks him to step closer with a serious look. Obediently, Gorulz walks toward the tribe leader without questioning the command. A glow appears on the shaman's finger, showing he is about to use some kind of magic. He touches Gorulz's forehead and tells him to bow his head as a sign of respect. The blue glow spreads across Gorulz's head as the spell is cast. Morxel then grants Gorulz the authority to form his own independent clan. He explains that Gorulz has already proven to have the merit and capability to lead his own people. The shaman adds that the person he is about to meet will assist him on his journey. Facing the golden portal, Morxel seems to bow respectfully. A female figure with long legs and golden skin steps out of the portal elegantly. She introduces herself as Rumpelstiltskin, the legendary golden goblin. Gorulz is amazed and wonders what a golden goblin is and why she is so important. The woman sits in a fancy chair as if she owns the entire place. She confirms if he is Gorulz and says she heard he needs weapons for his mission. The golden goblin explains that everything comes with a price and she cannot just hand the weapons over. Before any negotiation, she invites him to sit down and share his story. One of the goblins accompanying the woman pulls out a chair for Gorulz to sit at the table. He gets comfortable in the chair facing the mysterious golden goblin and gets ready to talk. Straight to the point, Gorulz asks where she would like him to start telling his story. After explaining everything, he finishes by saying that is how he was reborn as a goblin. The golden goblin stays quiet for a moment with a thoughtful look on her face. Suddenly, she slams her hands on the table with excitement and yells that his story is brilliant. She claims it was the most entertaining story she has ever heard in her entire life. With a snap of her fingers, a golden glow wraps around the goblin, who looks really hyped. Several books and scrolls float around the room, showcasing her massive collection of tales. The golden goblin says Gorulz's tale will be the most valuable piece in her collection. With a look of admiration, she points at Gorulz with a satisfied smile. She stands up and walks over to him, saying she loved every single detail of the tragic story. The goblin cheers, saying it has been a long time since anyone got her this excited over a story. Gorulz feels awkward and wonders what part of his past that crazy woman actually liked. He then asks her about the weapon she promised, and she seems to remember the deal. With a smile, she says he cannot fight without weapons, and that she will help him with that. She gets up from her chair and walks closer to Gorulz with an air of mystery. The golden goblin reveals she is going to give him a special gift and calls him the Great Vessel. She then turns around and asks Gorulz to follow her to where the gift is. The woman opens a new golden portal and says she is going to show him something special. As they walk away, the golden goblin narrates Gorulz's story in a book. Gorulz walks through the portal, and his feet touch the ground of a new, mysterious location. An energy surrounds him, and he appears wearing brand new armor, becoming the master of the Gorulz clan. The golden goblin praises him, saying he now looks like a true clan master. Gorulz replies that he is ready to go, feeling an even greater power inside him. The golden goblin turns her back and leans over the table in a teasing pose. With a smile, she says her intuition never fails and that he really is special. She then gets ready to explain in detail the gifts she just gave him. Gorulz listens closely and seriously so he does not miss any important details. The scene shifts to the human camp with the sword flag waving in the wind. From the top of a cliff, Gorulz watches the camp while his goblins call out to him. All his followers shout his name in unison, showing their loyalty and admiration. Gorulz draws his new sword, getting ready to lead his clan into their first battle. He gives the attack order and declares that it is time for the hunt to begin for all of them. With a wild battle cry, the entire goblin clan charges toward the camp. The camp's flag flaps in the wind as the goblin attack quickly approaches. One of the human lookouts runs frantically to warn everyone about the incoming invasion. He yells to his squad leader that they are under attack right at that moment. The lookout then reveals that the invaders are not assassins like they thought, but actually goblins. The squad leader is confused and shocked by the unexpected news of a goblin attack. The goblins storm the camp fiercely, striking the humans who were completely unprepared. Watching from afar, the golden goblin says that is only the first gift. She explains that the clan members' elimination count will be synced with Gorulz's. Several takedown notifications pop up, showing the massive success of the clan's surprise attack. Back in the fancy room, the golden goblin gets ready to reveal her second gift. With a snap of her fingers, she summons something in the air, leaving Gorulz surprised. Banners showing info and missions appear in front of Gorulz and the golden goblin. He realizes she managed to summon a system mission window. The goblin explains that he can now access the mission window without any time or space limits. A screen shows the clan's mission is to hunt 40 humans, that they have already taken down 25. Gorulz laughs and notes that doing something he only read in novels feels pretty surreal. In the heat of the battle, a human yells as he tries to defend himself from a small goblin's attack. Another goblin leaps over his teammate and attacks the human with a wooden club. The hit lands right on the man's head, and he falls to the ground, dazed by the blow. Two humans try to gang up on a goblin, but he dodges out of the way very nimbly. With a quick move, the small being lands a decisive blow on one of the men. The squad leader yells at his men for being scared of a few mere goblins. He pushes them to fight and show the monsters what happens when they dare cross paths with humans. But before he can even finish his speech, a blur rushes past him at top speed. A deep cut appears on his face, and he freezes, unable to react at all. Gorulz appears behind him and asks who exactly was calling trash. The squad leader falls to the ground completely defeated right in front of his panicked men. One of the soldiers cannot believe his leader was beaten by a single goblin. Terrified, he warns the others that these are no regular goblins and decides to run away. Panic spreads and all the soldiers start sprinting frantically back to the base. Gorulz watches the humans fleeing in total chaos with a look of pure disgust on his face. With a sigh of disdain, he simply calls them fools for their cowardice. His goblins gather around and congratulate him on the magnificent battle they just won. Gorulz looks at them with an approving glance, satisfied with his clan's performance. The golden goblin then asks if he has picked a name for his new clan yet. Gorulz thinks about it for a moment, wondering what the perfect name for his group would be. He turns to his men and praises them for their bravery in the battle they just fought. Gorulz declares that on that day they were reborn as warriors of the Black Moon clan. Mev adds to the speech, saying they are no longer the ones who hide in the shadows. The goblins fill with pride upon hearing they achieved victory against the humans. Gorulz then shouts fiercely that from that day on, they will secure even more victories. With fists raised and full of determination, he leads his clan in a powerful battle cry. He announces they are the Blood Dagger clan, raising his weapon high into the sky. The new clan celebrates their first victory and the birth of their new warrior identity. The Golden Goblin smiles and says she likes the name Blue Dagger he chose. Out of curiosity, she asks why he decided to pick a dagger as their symbol. Gorulz starts explaining the reason behind the clan's name and brings up his first takedown. He reveals that the weapon he used for his very first elimination as a goblin was a dagger. The Golden Goblin smiles and says she also really enjoyed that part of the story. Gorulz then questions why she is helping so much and what she gets out of it. She explains that Golden Goblins are crazy about shiny treasures and secrets. The woman throws herself onto a lounge chair looking relaxed and a bit arrogant. With a sly smile, she reveals that the thing she loves most in the world is a great story. She adds that she especially likes tales that are impactful and emotional. The goblin says she could feel Gorulz's rage and frustration while he was telling his story. Because of that, she is very curious to find out how this narrative is going to end down the line. Gorulz thanks her for the help and says that thanks to her, things are going to be much easier. She jokes that when his story ends, it will pay for 3 years' worth of drinks, which annoys him. The Golden Goblin then says goodbye and wishes Clan Master Gorulz a good hunt. The scene takes us to the base of the Kingdom Guard's 13th detachment. A notice from Captain Hansen warns everyone about the frequent goblin pack attacks in the area. One of the guards complains that his teammates are acting like fools, terrified of the goblins. Sergeant Sangjun questions if they are really going to shake in fear over a few monsters. Another guard explains that rumors say these are not normal goblins and that they move like ghosts. The sergeant angrily crumbles the paper, refusing to believe what he is hearing from his men. He throws the paper on the floor and calls them idiots, saying it is obvious goblins travel in packs. One of the guards insists the situation is serious because the summon camp was wiped out. The sergeant ignores the warnings and sees the whole situation as a chance to move up in the ranks and get promoted. The guard asks what he plans to do, and the sergeant reveals his ambitious plan. He says he is going to deal with those goblins that are causing so much trouble in the region. The sergeant confidently declares that they will capture the monsters themselves and fix the issue. In a dark cell, a plate of nasty food is left on the floor for a prisoner. The young woman Gorulz freed is huddled in a corner of the cold, damp cell. A guard walks up and asks why she's not touched the food yet again. She answers with disgust that she will not eat because she knows the food is poisoned. The guard smirks creepily and asks where she got such a full mouth from. He keeps teasing her, saying she must take after her mother to talk like that. The young woman does not reply, and the guard gets annoyed by her silence and insults her. He yells that just because they treated her well, she is nothing special, and out there, she is a nobody. The guard complains he only wanted to have some fun, and she attacked him with a knife like a savage. Tired of arguing, he says it does not matter, and that he is going to show her what her real worth is. The young woman curls up in the corner of the cell, terrified of what he plans to do with her. The guard then orders another soldier to tie her up and throw her outside as bait. The soldier smiles cruelly and tells her she is completely screwed now. The scene shifts to a dark forest under the moonlight, with the young woman tied to a wooden post. On the ground, gold coins have been scattered to lure the goblins right into the trap. The young woman sits quietly in the middle of the clearing, waiting for the monsters to show up. Hidden in the bushes, the hunters complain about the smell of the tree sap used as bait. One of them wonders if the trap will work, and the other tells him to be quiet. With a smile, he turns to the leader and asks if the plan is solid. The goblin hunter tells everyone to stay on high alert because they do not know when the targets will arrive. One of the men whispers that the leader does not seem like a real hunter, and the other scolds him. Still suspicious, he wonders if that strategy is actually going to work out. The veteran hunter confidently states that all necessary preparations are complete. He explains that the coins will draw the greedy goblins straight into the trap. On top of that, the young woman's necklace has a charm that attracts goblins, and she will act as the bait. One of the hunters makes a tasteless joke, and his partner tells him to shut his mouth. The goblin hunter explains that human women have softer meat for the monsters. With a serious look, he confirms he was being literal about the taste of the meat. The two younger men are grossed out by the conversation and ask him to drop the subject. 4 hours later, a goblin finds one of the gold coins left on the trail. Excited, he yells to his buddies that he found human gold coins. The goblin hunter spots him approaching and orders his men to get ready to attack. The goblins follow the trail of coins, completely unaware they are walking into a trap. From a distance, Gorulz watches the scene and notices something odd about that trail of coins. He then spots the tied-up young woman in the middle of the clearing and recognizes the girl he saved. Tied up and gagged, the young woman shakes with fear as tears roll down her face. Gorulz sighs in frustration at the situation and the naivety of the girl who got into trouble again. He and his clan reach the clearing and surround the young woman being used as bait. The girl looks at Gorulz with tear-filled eyes, showing a mix of fear and relief. Gorulz stares at her and jokes, asking if being tied up is some sort of hobby of hers. With a blushing red face, the young woman seems to have no idea how to react to Gorulz's comment. Gorulz sighs at the scene and sarcastically wonders if the young woman actually enjoys being tied up. Right then, he spots a crossbow trap on the ground and carefully picks it up to inspect it. Hidden in the bushes, the leader of the hunters orders them to aim for the goblin's legs. As he gets closer, the young woman panics, and he asks her to calm down while trying to identify himself. He then takes off her gag, and the girl urgently calls out his name, Goblin. Desperate, the young woman yells that he cannot be there because the whole place is a massive trap. Very calmly, he replies that he already knows that, leaving the girl even more confused by the situation. The warrior then calls out the enemy's positions at 3, 11, and 9 o'clock around the clearing. On his signal, the goblins pop up out of nowhere and attack the hunters by surprise. Archer Mev and her squad get ready to unleash a rain of arrows on their targets. With a confident smile, Gorulz reveals that all of them walked right into his own traps. The young woman is shocked by the reveal and wonders how he managed to pull all that off. The story then flashes back 3 days to explain Gorulz's entire plan. At a distant farm, some desperate screams shatter the peace and quiet of the countryside. Inside a barn, several farmers are being held hostage by a group of guards. Gorulz then announces he just wants to buy some food and that there will be no trouble. Startled, the farmers hand over a few bags of food to the group of monsters. Looking at the small number of bags, Gorulz asks if that is all they have to offer. An older man begs for their lives and explains that it is all they had left after paying taxes. Crying, the old man says that little bit of food was meant to keep his family fed. Gorulz listens to the man's cries with a serious look and a thoughtful expression. He gets angry, wondering how humans could steal food from their own people. The clan master complains that this tiny bit of food will not even feed his men for 3 days. To the man's surprise, Gorulz places several gold coins into his hands. He says he will take half the food, and the old man thinks the money could last them half a year. The family thanks him endlessly and calls him sir, but he seriously refuses the title. One of the goblins then asks his boss what they should do with the captured guards. Without hesitating, Gorulz orders them to be taken down, saying people like that do not deserve to stick around. Following the order, the goblins eliminate the corrupt guards with swift and decisive strikes. Terrified, the family hugs each other as they witness the corrupt guards being dealt with. The tied-up young woman on the ground sighs and asks if he thinks she actually likes being in that situation. Gorulz then crouches down and picks up one of the crossbow traps that was on the clearing floor. Hiding away, the hunter's leader tells his men to aim for the legs since they want her alive. Seeing Gorulz approach, the girl panics and he asks her to calm down. He removes her gag, and the young woman quickly calls his name, Goblin. The girl then yells for him to run away because that whole place is a trap. Calmly, the warrior replies he already knows everything, leaving the girl extremely confused. He then points out the positions of the enemies hiding all around them in the dark. At his signal, the Blood Dagger clan ambushes the hunters, jumping out from the bushes. Archer Mev and her squad prepare to unleash a barrage of pinpoint-accurate arrows. With a victorious smile, Gorulz explains that they all walked straight into his traps. The young woman is mind-blown by the reveal and wonders how he predicted everything. The story then jumps back 3 days prior to show how the plan was put together. On a peaceful farm, several desperate screams echo from inside a barn. Inside the place, some farmers are being held hostage by corrupt guards. Gorulz then tells them that if they sell a little food, there will be no issues. Trembling with fear, one of the farmers hands over a few bags of potatoes and carrots to them. Gorulz looks at the tiny amount of food and asks if that is all they have. An old man begs for their lives and explains that is all that was left after taxes. He goes on to say that the little bit of food was meant to keep his whole family going. The clan master watches the desperation of the old man and his family with a serious gaze. He gets frustrated when he realizes those guards were stealing food from their own people. Gorulz complains that the food would barely feed his men for 3 days straight. He then surprises the old farmer by handing him multiple gold coins as payment. Gorulz says he will take half the food and that with the money they can go buy more. Extremely grateful, the man and his family bow and call him Mr. Goblin. One of the goblins approaches and asks his boss what to do with the captured guards. Gorulz orders them eliminated, saying scum like that do not deserve to stay around. His goblins follow the order and finish off the corrupt guards with decisive blows. The farmer's family hugs each other in fear as they witness the violent scene. The young woman replies that she knows guard Lee Sang-jun very well. Gorulz then states that he is the kind of person who should not be allowed to keep breathing. He asks how long the girl was locked up with that guard unit. She replies it was a few days and asks why he is so interested in that topic. Gorulz demands she tells him everything she saw and heard while she was there. Meanwhile, Mev waits patiently, sitting on a log and playing with a flower. Gorulz walks up and gets the attention of the archer, who is eagerly waiting for him. Seeing him, she sprints toward him with a huge smile, super happy he is back. He asks her to gather the strongest and fastest in the clan for a new mission. With a determined look, Gorulz reveals he is putting together an elite strike force. The scene changes to the guard unit's barracks on a bright, sunny morning. We see the nameplate with Sergeant Lee Sang-jun's name sitting on a wooden desk. The sergeant is relaxing in his chair with a look of pure pleasure and satisfaction. Suddenly, he jumps up, startled by a strange noise coming from outside. He seems to be enjoying something and mentions the person is getting good at it. The sound of a door violently slamming open breaks the peace of the moment. One of his men runs into the room, and the captain gets angry about the interruption. The soldier points outside and says the captain needs to see what is going on. The captain stands up and asks what could possibly be so important to cause such a panic. His face turns completely pale when he sees several of his men's fallen bodies being carried into the courtyard. The bodies are dropped onto the ground, piling up into a heap of defeated soldiers. On the first morning, they check the IDs and confirm they were the goblin hunters. One of the guards reports that everyone else who went out is completely unreachable and missing. Hearing the news, the captain feels sick to his stomach and throws up on the floor, shocked by what happened. With a look of absolute fury, he orders them to double the guards and call for backup. One of the surviving soldiers looks at the figure of a companion who was tied up and mourns. Sergeant Lee Sang Jung was tied up with a sign describing him as a great leader. The young soldier says he knew the man would end up like that and calls him disgusting trash. Gorulz then remembers seeing that man's neck in a restraint on that day. The story cuts back to the guard unit with a soldier screaming in anger and frustration. The name Lee Sang-jun on ID tag confirms it is the sergeant. The sergeant grabs his head in pure anger, wondering what kind of creatures those are. He remembers that goblins are supposed to be the weakest and easiest monsters to beat. In shock, he wonders how those beings dare to mock them in such a cruel way. Sang-jun yells at his lieutenant, asking if he has already sent out the request for backup. A carrier pigeon is released into the sky to deliver the urgent message to the main unit. The scene shifts to a thick forest landscape with large mountains in the background. In a clearing, a small wooden cabin looks like some kind of meeting spot. Inside the cabin, Gorulz tries on some climbing gear he recently got. Suddenly, he notices a weird decoration on the wall and steps closer to take a look. It is a stuffed goblin with a creepy smile and glowing eyes staring right at him. With a serious look, Gorulz inspects the bizarre and twisted decor of that cabin. The goblin hunter who is tied up in a corner calls him over for a chat. He offers a gold coin as a payoff for Gorulz getting in the way of his plans. The hunter then places a stack of coins on the table for the climbing gear. Gorulz states that with this, they are even and the debt between them is settled. The hunter grinds his teeth in anger but agrees to the deal just to get out of the situation. Gorulz then walks out of the cabin, leaving the hunter and his men behind. Outside, Mev is waiting for him along with the goblins he requested for the new mission. The scared goblins cheer for the boss and the new Blood Dagger clan. Gorulz pats Mev on the head, praising her for the great work she did. He orders them to storm the guard fortress and cause as much chaos as possible. Gorulz hands a pile of clothes to two of his goblins and tells them to put them on. He then announces that from this moment forward, they are the very first strike squad. At nightfall, the guard fortress is struck by a massive rain of flaming arrows. The guards scream in total panic from the surprise attack and scramble to defend themselves. Mev leads the charge and orders her archers to keep shooting without stopping. One of the guards sprints desperately up the stairs to warn the captain about the attack. He bursts in the captain's room and yells that the fortress is under heavy aerial fire. The captain barks orders to shut the gates and get every soldier up on the walls. The guard confirms the order and runs out to carry out the captain's commands. The captain sits in his chair, taking a deep breath to process the chaotic situation. He remembers the goblins he saw and realizes they were not regular, weak creatures. Desperate, he yells that all they can do is hold on until the reinforcements arrive. A grappling hook is thrown and latches firmly onto the fortress wall. One of the guards on watch spots the strange object and walks over to check it out. Looking down, he sees the tight rope and is startled by the silent invasion. Before he could even yell for help, a blade strikes him in a decisive blow. His strength quickly fades away as the light vanishes from his eyes. The watchman's motionless body falls to the wall's floor, heavily injured. A goblin warrior carrying an axe in his back silently steps onto the fortress wall. Gorulz watches the fight from a distance and notices the wall guards have fallen back. One of the goblin scouts walks up and reports that the path is totally clear to advance. Gorulz looks at his scout, calling him boss, waiting for the next commands. The Blood Dagger clan strike squad gets into position, completely ready for the invasion. Gorulz gives the order to hit fast, loot everything, and get out before backup arrives. The goblins push forward silently and quickly through the streets of the enemy fortress. One of the guards spots them and yells for them to stop and identify themselves right away. With no time for talking, the scouts fire their crossbows at the lone guard. The arrows hit the guard perfectly, eliminating him before he could sound the alarm. Gorulz's squad climbs the stairs of the main tower, searching for their target. At the top of the tower, a guard mocks the noise they are making all over a goblin. One of Gorulz's goblins attacks him from behind with a pinpoint silent strike. In just one move, the goblin lands a finishing blow on the unaware guard. The guard's body is tossed off the tower, falling motionless into the fortress courtyard. Gorulz says goodbye to the guard with disgust, calling him a fool for his arrogance. The captain hears a strange noise coming from his office door and goes on high alert. The wooden door is busted open with a mighty kick, breaking the lock with ease. The captain is startled by the break-in and wonders what his lieutenant is doing. The lieutenant's body is tossed into the room, landing with a heavy thud on the floor. The captain thinks the intruder's voice sounds familiar and readies his sword for combat. Gorulz warns him that as soon as he sees his face, he is going to freak out over what he discovers. Upon seeing the goblin's face, the captain's eyes widen in pure shock. He yells out, asking how on earth a goblin can speak the human language like that. Gorulz says that is not his biggest problem and reveals he saw him being taken down. With an evil smile, he greets Sang-jun, bringing up the past they both share. The captain is absolutely terrified as he realizes exactly who the goblin standing in front of him is.